Around 1500 BCE, the Indian subcontinent underwent a massive transition. The highly structured urban centers of the Indus Valley Civilization had already fallen into steep decline. These cities were marvels of engineering, built on strict grids with standardized bricks and complex public works. But by this time, that sophisticated urban planning had largely ceased. Into this quieted landscape arrived a new people. Their ancestors were nomadic pastoralists, Aryan-speaking groups who originated thousands of miles to the north, on the vast open steppes of Central Asia. This map traces their path into the northwest. Historians generally understand this movement as a gradual migration rather than a single event, with these groups entering the subcontinent and establishing settlements over the course of several generations. As they entered the region, they interacted with the populations already living there. Over time, these nomadic tribes began establishing new, permanent settlements, forming the communities we now call the Indo-Aryans. The arrival of these pastoral tribes into the vacuum left by the fallen urban empire defined the beginning of the Early Vedic Age. This map highlights their primary settlement zone, a region they called Sapta Sindhu, or the Land of Seven Rivers. This area covered the Indus River basin and its major tributaries, spanning parts of modern-day Punjab. The geography dictated how they lived. These rivers were vital lifelines, providing constant water to nourish grazing grounds and support their growing herds. Their economy was almost entirely driven by pastoralism. A family's wealth and social status were measured directly by the number of cattle they owned. Because cattle represented concentrated economic power, they were the primary source of conflict. Disputes between rival tribes frequently centered around raiding neighboring settlements to capture their herds, or fighting to recover stolen cows. This herd-focused lifestyle meant they had little use for massive brick architecture. Instead, they built scattered villages using perishable materials like wood, bamboo, and reeds. Every aspect of their lives, from the temporary homes they built to the wars they fought, grew out of the strict demands of managing enormous herds of cattle along these river valleys. While cattle remained the primary currency, agriculture slowly gained importance. Farmers began cultivating crops in the fertile soil, particularly a strain of barley known as Java, relying on seasonal rains and river water to sustain the harvest. Specialized crafts emerged to support these evolving villages. Carpenters built carts, smiths forged tools and weapons, and potters produced storage vessels. These goods circulated through a barter system, helping stabilize the growing communities. The horse held an entirely different status than the cow. While cattle were the economic engine, the horse provided speed and mobility. The horse-drawn chariot became an essential tool of fast-paced warfare and a very potent symbol of elite prestige. Culturally, these tribes maintained highly complex traditions, yet they completely lacked a written script. They recorded no histories on clay tablets and kept no written ledgers of their trade. Their knowledge survived instead through rigorous memorization. Priests spent their lives preserving vast collections of sacred hymns and poetry, transmitting exact syllables from generation to generation through an unbroken oral tradition. The crown jewel of this oral preservation is the Rigveda. Compiled from thousands of these memorized verses, it remains the oldest surviving text of ancient India and the primary source for everything we know about this era. While the earlier Indus Valley Civilization left behind sprawling cities built of baked mud and clay, the Vedic people constructed something far more enduring out of human memory and the spoken word. Later tradition would remember the Sapta Sindhu region as Brahmvarta, the sacred land of the gods and the birthplace of Vedic knowledge. But the tribes would not remain confined to the northwest. This map shows the direction of their movement over centuries. As populations expanded and communities sought out new grazing lands, the Vedic tribes slowly pushed eastward, following the river systems toward the highly fertile plains of the Ganga and Yamuna. This steady eastward migration shifted the center of gravity for their entire society. The vast cultural sphere they carved out across northern India eventually became known as Aryavarta, the land of the Aryans. In this period, they replaced the old urban model with a family-based pastoral economy. They introduced the horse-drawn chariot to the subcontinent and composed the hymns that would serve as the foundation for their evolving culture. This shift toward the Ganga-Yamuna plains moved the focus of Vedic life away from the northwestern rivers, leading to changes in their religion, politics, and social structure. But as these tribes expanded across a vast subcontinent, how did they actually govern themselves? In a society without kings sitting in massive stone palaces, who truly held power? And what roles did the Raja, the Sabha, and the Samiti play in deciding the fate of a tribe? That is what we will uncover next.